When it comes to certain video games in a franchise, they're expected to one day become obsolete, whether that's due to inaccessibility, sequels doing what the original did but adds on to it, or just better experiences being available in today's day and age. You would think one of these irrelevant games would be the original Animal Crossing for Nintendo GameCube, but there's something so special about it that I will never consider it unnecessary. And when I say unnecessary, I mean from a gameplay perspective, not a historical one. Animal Crossing has changed over the years, going from one of the more niche Nintendo franchises to a borderline cultural phenomenon. Of course, there's many factors going into what I just said, but my main point is that the series has become so recognizable that it's almost at the same status as Mario or Zelda. It's become a product of all its past games, however the design philosophies have also shifted quite a bit, both in ways I like and dislike. I most likely will go through my thoughts on some of the newer games later, but for now we're going over the original Animal Crossing, what it did well, what it lacked, and how it really was set apart from the newer games. Inspiration for Animal Crossing can be traced all the way back to 1986, when the main director Katsuya Iguchi moved from his home city Chiba to work at Nintendo's HQ in Kyoto at the young age of 21. As it turns out, moving away from a place you've known all your life to a brand new place with barely any familiar faces kinda sucks. He's done some pretty amazing things for Nintendo, being one of the level designers for Super Mario Bros. 3, director for Star Fox and Wave Race 64, chief designer of Yoshi's Story. These, among other things, make him a really valuable member of Nintendo's team. And finally, in April of 2001, we got the Nintendo 64 game Doubutsu no Mori, and by we, I mean Japan. It feels like a very bare prototype compared to the game we eventually got. Features like the Able Sisters in the museum were nowhere to be seen. Eventually, in December of 2001, 8 months after the original game, Doubutsu no Mori Plus was released in Japan to accompany the release of the Nintendo GameCube and added on so many new features. Because it did so well over there, localization work was also done so we could eventually try out this game. And on September 16th of 2002, America finally got to try out Animal Crossing Population Growing. And this is the version that we'll be talking about today. Eventually, all of this did so well that Japan got a third release of the game known as Doubutsu no Mori E+, which added on new features, like town decorations, which was definitely a precursor to the Public Works projects later on in New Leaf. But I digress. This is Animal Crossing on the GameCube. To give a brief overview on the game's concept, it's that you're a human moving into a village filled with anthropomorphic animals. You live day by day doing many tasks to gain money or earn friendships. And I literally mean day by day. The GameCube's internal clock will tell the time and reflect that in the game. The game's lighting changes as the day progresses. Not only will time change, but so will seasons and months. Snow will fall in December and melt by March. Mushrooms will begin to grow in October. Exclusive fish are ready to catch during July. Even special events that happen on the monthly. Paying your loans will expand your house, henceforth giving you more space. When you pay it all off, you get a golden statue of yourself, which is pretty cool. You can chat with villagers, go fishing, bug hunting, pull some weeds, or search for fossils or gyroids, while trying to earn as much money as you can. It's easygoing, slow-paced, and a bit mundane, but that's kind of the point. It provides a sense of escapism, which builds upon the idea of a solid community with daily activities. Like I mentioned, there are some random events and holidays that occur, incentivizing you to play more to see what every day could bring. That, and maintaining the weeds that grow, because they grow fast. This is a game that appeals to me quite a bit, despite a lot of the differences that I might have to other games I might enjoy. I'll explain the appeal and my personal experiences with it in decently great detail, so join me as I discuss why this game is so special. It all starts on a train ride. You're just there, sitting, awaiting to arrive to your new location. And then this guy appears, Rover the Cat! He's always been a personal favorite NPC of mine, and even though he's a little off-putting the first time you meet him, he's a decently friendly guy. He asks your name, location of the town, and after assuming your gender, he proceeds to ask you a series of questions, those of which determine what face you're gonna get. And no matter what you're gonna go with, you're always gonna be white. Also, I believe this is the only time in the game where you can actually look at the sky. A little bit of shenanigans later, and here we are, at the town of whatever you named it. I originally played this game in 2017 and named my town Future. I don't know what I was going for, but I eventually reset the town somewhere in, I believe, late 2018, I want to say. I went with the name Oak Grove instead, and I definitely prefer the latter. To me, the aesthetic of the game is just enhanced by that simple choice. Oh hey look, it's one of the best characters in the franchise. Tom Nook is the town's shopkeeper and your landlord, and people's thoughts on the man are very polarizing. Okay, sure, on one hand, he feels the need to colonize every piece of land he sees and promotes child labor, but he also lets you pay your rent whenever you want. Oh, but he forces you to upgrade, which is paid for? Why would you even say no to that in the first place? He lets you do it whenever you want anyway, so in theory, you never have to give him a single bell. Sure, your house would suck, but if you feel self-righteous in whatever statement you're making, then go for it. You pick one of the 4 houses, and he learns that you're a bit short on money, so he forces you to do offers you to do some chores at his store. There are various tasks which he sets you up to do, one of them being planting flowers by his store. You can plant the flowers at your house and he will never notice. Others include introducing yourself to the villagers plus the mayor, doing some deliveries, and advertisement. Again, you can write whatever you want with no repercussions. Eventually he decides that you've worked too much, so he lets you go, and this is where Animal Crossing truly opens up. So, there are multiple ingredients to Animal Crossing, which makes it really good, but one of the things that a lot of people like to mention are the villagers. The town is inhabited by talking animals, all of which having their own different personalities, houses, traits, bedtimes, etc. Up to 15 villagers can be present in any given town, which weirdly enough is more than you can get in any other game. I get why Wild World had to compensate, but everything from City Folk onward being at a maximum of 10 just never really made sense to me. You can talk to them whenever you want, as they would discuss townly matters, or you can ask them to run an errand. These could be anything from asking another villager to return an item, returning an item yourself, catching a bug, fish, or finding a ball. Sometimes when you're requested to retrieve an item, you'll go on this wild goose chase where they gave it to this person, and then this person gave it to that person, and then that person gave it to that person, and you never know when it ends. They'll reward you with items such as clothing, furniture, wallpapers, floorings, and most commonly and annoyingly of them all, stationery. If you're lucky, you can receive a foreign fruit that you can sell at a decent price. Be sure to plant it first though. You might be familiar with these villagers in particular due to their lack of restraint. These villagers can be rude, annoying, and straight up brutal in the game, giving them more personality and character. Some of the guys I got in my village for the recording are definitely memorable, like Gaston, who I'm pretty sure might want to murder me. Murphy and Rasher were the only characters that I missed the crap out of when I reset my original town. Something about Hank the chicken is just funny to me, but he unfortunately moved out, and he's never been in any recent entries, so I don't think I'll see him again. And yeah, just like Hank, friends just don't last forever. Villagers will tend to move out every 10 days or so, assuming you have 15 of them, and a new one will move in their place. They go without warning, without a second chance to make them reconsider, unlike in the new games. I believe that the villagers you talk to the most have a lower chance of moving out, so there's definitely some motivation to keep you playing. Whether that be simple chatting or doing chores, you definitely want these villagers to stay, or at least some of them to stay. The other ones, you can really take them or leave them. Over time, after doing a lot of chores and getting to really know your villagers, they start really appreciating you as seen in the dialogue. Villagers will become friendlier, but not like New Horizons level of friendly. It almost feels human in a way. Funny enough, the best character to befriend isn't even a villager, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. With bold personalities, doing chores whenever you want, and the highest number count in the entire series, I can definitely say that this is one of the strongest experiences when it comes to villagers. And nearly 20 years later, I'm not so sure it'll ever be topped. Oh, and sometimes they just straight up steal your stuff. Bubbles took away a train model, which I believe you can only get from Tortimer on a special event. This is when I had to make a hard choice on whether to reset my game or just start the day over, accepting that my train will be taken away. Ultimately, I pushed the reset button. You might be wondering why I'm making such a big deal out of resetting, but in all actuality, I'm not the one making a big deal out of it. He is. Mr. Resetti is one of the most notorious characters in Animal Crossing, as is a go-to example on what really sets this franchise apart. If you ever forget to save your game, hit the reset button, or lose power from your GameCube, this guy will come from the ground and start shouting at you. This fourth wall-breaking mole made children across the globe cry, myself included right now. But some of his dialogue are the most entertaining yet boring pieces of literature ever written. Sometimes his brother Don will show up instead, and he's definitely more chill. A lot of the NPCs definitely give Animal Crossing its much needed flavor. The Mayor Tortimer will show up from time to time, usually on special events to give you a gift. But other times include him building new bridges or going on vacation, tasking you to turn on the lighthouse every night for the next 9 days. Some days you'll be able to encounter special characters such as the fortune teller Katrina, the hungry for fish Wendell, the sleazy scammer Crazy Red, Gracie the aristocratic Draff, and everyone's favorite sailor Gulliver. Some characters like Jingle and Jack only show up during holidays. One of my favorites is the elusive ghost Wisp, who only shows up during the late hours of the night. Catch 5 spirits for him and he'll do you a favor, whether that's recoloring the roof of your house, giving you a random item that you don't own, and most notoriously pulling every weed in town. Thanks, Wisp. I love you little ghost man. If you have a perfect town and go to a fountain, you meet the spirit of the town, Farley. A perfect town is only achieved if you have plenty of flowers in each acre and absolutely zero weeds or trash, including the dump. He'll give you the golden axe, and unlike other axes, it never breaks. Don't you just miss when axes were the only tools that broke? Even whenever an axe broke, it felt obtrusive. At least I'm okay with it because it's definitely the tool that I'll use the least, but I digress. This is all for a potential New Horizons video anyway. And finally, every Saturday night by the train station, you can find the greatest musician of all time, the one and only KK Slider, a vagabond that's got some profound words to say. Fun fact, if he plays you a song from 8:45 to 8:50 p.m., you can actually see Resetti in the background. It's a pretty cool detail I caught on accident. So we already went over Tom Nook a little bit, but we haven't gone over the shop very much. The shop has pretty much what you'd expect out of a shop, like clothes, furniture, tools, and flowers. The more you spend, the bigger the store gets. This is also a great place to make money by selling stuff to Tom Nook. Usually stuff like fish, foreign fruit, or junk you don't need anymore are great ways of getting bells, but if I'm not selling fish, I'm giving it to Blathers, who owns a museum. I absolutely love this guy. He really lives up to his name, never stopping to tell me every last fact about a T-Rex skull or freaking out about a bug that I caught. Even art pieces are donatable, and unlike later entries in the game, there are no fake variants of art. I don't like that you have to keep track of everything you've collected on your own accord, though. Would have been nice if a Blathers icon showed up in the corner of everything you've donated. Sorta similar to New Horizons. The police station has Copper, who can tell you about characters that are due to appear, or Booker, who runs a lost and found. We have the post office too, where you can mail letters and catch up on your debt. Pelly is a light version of Isabel, I feel like. Always happy to do the job, where Phyllis is the antithesis and probably needs some coffee. Or maybe a hug, I don't know. Speaking of which, if this game also had Brewster, it would be a perfect 10 out of 10, but alas, only a 9.9. This game also has The Dump, which is a lost and found. Is this some form of social commentary, Nintendo? Last but not least, the Able Sisters, the retail store where you're the designer. I'm not very good at it. But anyway, who cares? We got the best character in the series to talk to. Starting out a little more timid, Sable will slowly open up to you before telling you about her tragic past. Remember when I said the best character to befriend wasn't even a villager? Well, I was referring to Sable. I guess Mabel's cool too, but she's definitely not as interesting, but she does get some brownie points with me due to her resemblance to my boy Sonic. Oh, and hey, check this out. In the summer, most mornings from 6 to 7 will hold a special aerobics program. This gains you absolutely nothing except for a tape deck if you do enough of them, but this is just a little extra piece of the world building that really pulls out the magic of the game, almost like your villagers are always up to something. Even other events like the sports fair or Cherry Blossom Festival don't really get you anything, but it's about being present in the moment. What I just said sounds corny, but it's definitely true, so take it as you will. Diverging a little bit away from gameplay, let's talk about the way the game presents itself. Of course, we can't forget that this is a late Nintendo 64 game, and in terms of graphics, yeah, it gets the job done. It's not fantastic looking like Conker's Bad Fur Day, but does it need to be? Besides, I kinda like the lower polygonal count. I think it kinda adds to the charm of the game. This game truly perfects ambiance for me, being in a small forest with cliffs surrounding and quaint houses, waterfalls to sit by and fish, a relaxing yet funky soundtrack, no rush to anything you're doing. It's all perfect. This game also has a unique way of getting around town compared to later entries. Instead of being on one big rolling log that's all interconnected, the game divides its town into 30 different acres. Reaching the boundary of an acre will switch the camera over into the adjacent acre. Every acre almost feels like its own daily adventure, not to mention some of the cool features you can get. Whether that be 2 bridges connected to a tiny island and an almost closed-in waterfall, or even the weirder slopes. The cartoony approach to the game is also a great touch. Characters having these expression icons? I actually don't know what these are called. The sound effects also sell the expressiveness to a great degree too. Oh, and the soundtrack I mentioned a while back. Yeah, it's really damn good. From the wacky head bop inducing tunes to the calmer, more atmospheric tracks. This game really has the best of both worlds in that regard. Every hour has its own distinct personality, but it still keeps a consistent theme throughout. I definitely listen to the soundtrack a lot on my off time. Hang on. Here we go. The daily money rock has been a staple of Animal Crossing games since the very beginning. Be sure to dig holes behind you to keep yourself stationary though, you don't want to lose any money. If you're quick enough, you can earn a maximum of 13,300 bells. If you're playing during a rainy game, don't even think about leaving the ocean once until your entire inventory is filled with coelacanths?
Colacante.
Yeah, that. Each worth 15,000 on their own. Buying turnips on Sunday morning is another great option, depending on whatever the price is. It works like the stock market, where some days they can be sold for more than other days. I don't usually buy turnips, but in this one in particular, I felt like I was constantly hitting gold mines. Turnips are sold in bunches of 10 and are usually sold from 90 to 100 bells each turnip. From Mondays to Saturdays, you can sell them from a price as low as 15 bells to as high as 990. However, prices mostly range from 50 to 200. Easily my favorite way of making money is by spending real-life money on a Game Boy Advance and link cable and getting to visit the island. This guy, Cap'n, will take you on a boat tour to your very own island with your own secondary bungalow. You can even get one exclusive islander. After you're done, you can temporarily save your island to your Game Boy Advance, and by luring your exclusive villagers to coconuts around the island, you can get more bells than you can shake a stick at. I would do this more often, but first of all, I have no idea where my GBA is, and secondly, the emulator crashed. P.S. It's always summer here, so if you want to get summer fish or get a tan to change your skin, then 100% go for it. And of course, you need things to actually spend money on, one of them being furniture. I definitely love the furniture present in this game. Usually they are sold in pieces of a larger set, such as Cabana, Regal, Classic, Blue, or Exotic, just to name a few. Some of my favorite pieces are definitely those that are inspired by other Nintendo games, especially the Mario ones, which translate the original pixel art into full-blown 3D models. But you know what's even cooler than gaining Nintendo furniture? Gaining Nintendo games. I had to talk about this eventually. There is a small selection of NES games that you can play in this game, and that is stinking awesome. This is a feature that has been heavily requested, but due to things like the Virtual Console or that thing that they've been trying to sell us, that get away from me, ew! It's understandable why they stopped after the first entry. The selection isn't really anything too crazy either, but it's still a really neat addition to have. However, Mario Bros, Super Mario Bros, Ice Climber, and The Legend of Zelda are impossible to obtain without using external devices. And how could I forget the miniature series? This is easily the furniture series I miss the most. You can have a mini village inside your house. Almost reminds me of those old toys that they had in Japan. You also have a journal, and believe it or not, I've actually written full-fledged entries before. Whenever KK Slider finishes a performance, you can go inside your house and listen to a different version of the song he just played. And one of my favorite parts of the music inside your home is the plethora of gyrowoods to accompany the music. These little buggers are based off the clay statues called Haniwa, which are typically buried with the dead. It is believed that the spirits of the deceased will reside in these models. So what you are essentially doing is digging up these souls of those who have died and plopping them inside your house so they can sing for you. Oh my god, that is awesome. I love this game. What I don't love is the lack of storage. Yeah, I wish that there were more expansive storage units, incentivizing you to collect more and try new things out with furniture. But alas, closets won't even fit furniture, only stuff like stationary clothes and raffle tickets. That is dumb. Speaking of which, buying 5 pieces of furniture from the store each month will give you 5 raffle tickets exclusive to the month, which you can exchange at the end of the month to play the raffle at the end of the month. My only other real complaint is that there are only 3 rooms. The main floor is pretty big, and so is the basement, but there's no way to change the wallpaper or flooring. The top floor is also slightly smaller, and that's kind of annoying. I love the low poly aesthetic quite a bit, so it's a little disappointing that I can't express more creative ideas unless I wanted to get into making different villagers. Might as well mention the clothing too. You can't actually take off your hat in this game, whether you like that or not. I'm personally okay with it because I love the iconic horned hat. You can't switch out your pants or customize a hat and shirt combo, but I'm fine with it, especially because I'm always rocking the blue Aloha shirt, so I never worry too much about this. Oh, and by the way, did you know that there's a hidden slot in your inventory that you can place a shirt in? Doing that will change the background to whatever pattern it had, which is really, really cool. All this to say, Animal Crossing is one of the most relaxing, immersive experiences that's ever been created. The entire franchise has sold 66 million units, and while this game only makes up 2 million of those, it still deserves to be praised for being one of the most unique experiences out there. Obviously, this wasn't the first social simulation game, but its unique enough style and gameplay makes it stand out from its crowd. This is a game I constantly find myself coming back to in excitement, even if some of those days it's hard to crack 20 minutes into, but it still just helps me break up the pace of my day a little bit and just chill the hell out for a couple minutes. It did exactly what it set out to do, and it did a phenomenal job at it. It constructs an immersive world that you can just easily lose yourself into. The franchise will definitely continue for a very long time, and I hope more people can find enjoyment in what these games have to offer, but the soul of the original game has always surpassed the other games in the series, and I don't think there will ever be another game that has the same exact spirit. Even things that I mentioned earlier, like the Cherry Blossom Festival, or turning on the lighthouse, or washing Gracie's car, these things are just things that happen, yet they feel so special. Its charm and weirdness not only separates itself from the rest of the series, but also most video games as a whole. This is the only Animal Crossing game that gives you balls to kick. Literally. Little things like that go a large way. All of this and more is why I would consider this game to be my favorite entry in the series. It truly is one of a kind. Is what a dumb idiot would say if it wasn't for Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival.